kept that whole yen in Rome. So naturally when in Rome, I do as the Romans do. And though from Italy I lie to you prettily, don't think of me bitterly, you know that I'm true. Except now and then in Rome, in somebody's den in Rome, well, pussycat den in Rome, I do as the Romans, disregard the signs and the omens. When in Rome, I do as the Romans do. Those fingers in my hair, that sly come hither stare, strips my conscience bare, it's witchcraft. And I've got no defense for it, the heat is too intense for it. What good would common sense for it do? 'Cause it's witchcraft, wicked witchcraft. And although I know it's strictly taboo, when you arouse the need in me, my heart says yes indeed in me. Proceed with what you're leading me to. It's such an ancient pitch, but one I wouldn't switch. 'Cause there's no nicer witch than you. It's such an ancient pitch, but one I wouldn't switch. 'Cause there's no nicer witch than you, than you, than you, than you. Thank you. Thank you very much. So last night, the Oscars, I was so thrilled. I don't know about you, but I was so thrilled that my favorite movie of the year won. Green Book won the. Did you see it? Have you seen Green Book? Well, it means a lot to me, that film, because I was very honored to be a friend of Dr. Donald Shirley's. He lived 2 blocks from me at Carnegie Hall at a beautiful apartment. If you've seen the movie, you know all about that. I met him probably in the last 15 years of his life. When I was growing up in Houston, Texas, playing my first gigs, I remember another pianist who was older than I, sort of a mentor for me, at one point said, "Have you ever heard Don Shirley?" And I had never heard of him. He said, "You've got to find his records. You've got to find." Well, back then it wasn't like you couldn't go on YouTube. You couldn't Google, do all that stuff. So at that point, I really never found his records, but I remembered that name for a long time. And so I was walking down the street at right in front of Carnegie Hall, about 1993, I guess, and I saw a big sign in front for the Donald Shirley Trio. And I remembered. And I went and got a couple of tickets for that concert, and I took my good friend Liza Minnelli. Oh, I dropped a name. I took her to the concert. I said, "You know, I hear this guy is really good. He's very legendary." And she had not heard of him, and I'd never heard him before. And I remember we had box seats, and it was just a miraculous concert, because what he did, if you've seen the movie, he was raised to be a classical pianist. He was born in Jamaica. Showed this great aptitude for playing the piano at an early age. At the age of 6, his mother was his first teacher, and when he was 9, he was sent to study with a teacher in Leningrad, of all places. Can you imagine being a 9-year-old Jamaican boy and being sent to Russia to study for 3 years? And then at that point, he came back, and his family settled in New York. He had his first appearance with the Boston Pops at age 16. And at the same time, he was writing serious music, and his first composition was played by the London Philharmonic when he was 17. And he was a doctor, but he wasn't a doctor of music, he was a doctor of psychiatry. So he was a very learned man, and studied in all different fields. And he was destined to be a miraculous classical pianist, but what happened, I believe, is that he met Duke Ellington. And from there he met Billy Strayhorn. And he met all these wonderful Harlem musicians. And jazz changed everything around. And so because what he became famous for was taking American compositions, Ellington's compositions, and Gershwin, and all the great American songbook writers, and doing his own treatments in a very classical style. And he performed with an upright bass player and a cello player, usually, and that was the trio. And he also recorded a lot of spiritual music and gospel music, and he was great at that. There's a lot of music of his is out now, so you can certainly hear more. But he used to play this one particular piece whenever he would come to my house at a party, or Liza would give parties, and eventually we would get Donald to play a song, and he wouldn't play something showy. He would play a simple piece that was written by his friend Billy Strayhorn, his own treatment of a beautiful composition called Lotus Blossom. So I'd like to play for you now Dr. Donald Shirley's arrangement of Lotus Blossom. Thank you. Thank you very much. One of my favorite singers, and another guy that I was very fortunate to know, probably my biggest influence vocally is Mel Torme. Yeah, fantastic. So much so that I recorded a whole album of songs associated with him. This next song is a ballad that he used to sing in a lot of his concerts. Certainly was one of his favorites. He used to call it his favorite family love song. And it really is a great song about enduring love and enduring romance. Written by Jerome Kern and Oscar Hammerstein. Many men with lofty aims strive for lofty goals. Others play at smaller games, being simpler souls. I am of the latter brand. All I want to do is to find a plot of land and live there with you.